Hey everyone, you're watching The Esperanza 243. I will probably be interrupted periodically because not only is my mom awake, but my oldest sister is here. And she loves to interrupt. um, so this is the book reading for Long Live Menavia, Part 7. And I'm actually close to finishing packet 1 of the book. So I'm gonna try to see if I can finish the rest of this packet here in this video. We will see. I do have plenty of time, even though my family is here. Anyways, what kind of update was I going to tell you guys? Not about what's going to happen today. Oh, Monday is my dad's birthday. Yay! I have no idea what to get him, but thankfully I'm signed up at Cold Stone's website, and I entered all my family's birthdays. So like a week or two before someone's birthday, they actually send me an email saying got a coupon to give them for free ice cream, which is nice. Kind of like a backup for when when I forget about a birthday or have absolutely no idea what to get them. But I mean, my dad, he's a big guy, not, weight-wise, but he's really tall, if I haven't told you guys. There's actually a video of him on my page somewhere. If not, it's on my other account, Esperanza243. And he's actually really tall. He's like 6'8", which is why me and my sisters have, not only the D'Agostino height, excuse me, jeez, that is completely rude. So not only do we have the Italian height from our dad, we also have a mixture of my mom's height, and she's shorter than me. No offense to Mom. Anyways, what was I yammering about? Oh, his birthday. So he's like a tall fellow, so pretty much anything that he wants for Christmas or his birthday is clothes, particularly shoes or socks. Because it's actually kind of hard to find socks for him, but at the same time, it's easy. He is turning, I probably shouldn't say his age, but considering what year it is and how long ago he was born, I just want to say it anyway. He's turning 56. I kind of find it ironic because he was born in the year 56. Pretty funny. I guess it's not, because like eventually someone becomes the age of their birth year. Yeah. Except for the years where it's above 90. And there's my finger. So yeah. I'll write down that stuff later. Ayo! No response. Alright, let's do a recap of the last video. Oh, the funeral, Caprice holds a funeral for her mom. and after a while, she couldn't handle, living in the same place. Um, Hang on a second. I love my family, but when it comes to concentrating on something, when it comes to focusing on something that's important to me, I don't like being distracted. Anyways, Caprice did a funeral for her mom, and after a while, she couldn't stand living in the same place where her mom used to live in. So she packs up her things, and she leaves, or she is preparing to leave, I should say. Like she realizes she's packed too much, so she tries to take some stuff out. She forgot about bringing a blanket to cover up her things, and that's she couldn't find a suitable blanket, or not suitable. She couldn't find she couldn't find a suitable blanket, so she chooses the lightest and the lightest but sturdy blanket, which happens to be hers. And that's where we stopped. Let's get to it. Her eyes started to fill with tears. She was remembering each night when she was young, her mother tucking her into bed. She closed her eyes and sighed. She felt a bit better. Then she took her bags and walked to the transportation Signore Tucci brought to her. She stopped when she saw it. It was a chaise, or shay, a light four-wheeled traveling carriage with a single horse. The carriage didn't have a cover, but it did have a folding hood that could cover her from the sun. She was almost scared about the type of transportation she got. Then she remembered she didn't pay attention to the attached vehicle when feeding and watering the horse. She sighed and placed the bags in the chaise. Caprice hurried and grabbed her and her mother's coin purses. After that, she took her blanket and covered the items placed in the chaise. She placed the coin purses in one pocket of her dress, and then placed the envelope in her other pocket. She decided to put the locket around her neck. It snuggled comfortably and was hidden under the neckline of her dress. She was climbing into the driver's seat when she realized she almost forgot about the daggers. She went back inside to get the daggers and the case they were in. As she opened the case and took out the rondel dagger in its sheath, she decided not to leave a note, seeing as she wasn't sure how long she would be gone. She would have to deal with whether to come back or not at a later date. Caprice closed the dagger. Just lost my place there. Caprice closed the dagger case and placed the rondel dagger in her boot. Then she put the dagger case with her things, covered her luggage, and climbed in the driver's seat. She picked up... She picked up the reins and gently flicked it against the horse. The horse neighed and started walking. It appeared she knew how to drive a carriage. She left her home, not once looking back. 2 days had passed as she traveled out of Meltrova to Menavia. Not very many people passed her way. Each day she drew closer to her destination. She made sure she stopped to eat and also feed the horse. Almost half the stops she made, Caprice was able to find a stream. The horse got plenty to drink. That day she had decided to let one of her breaks linger. She checked on how much food she had left. There was still plenty left for her to ration for 5 more days. She had passed a town on the second day and bought more food. Then she had something to drink. That was when she heard footsteps behind her. Her eyes widened. Thinking the person was dangerous, she took out her rondel dagger and turned toward them. There were 2 people, a man and woman. They looked as if they hadn't eaten all day. The man looked firm and unbeatable, but he had a look that suggested Caprice he wouldn't hurt her. "Are you hungry?" she asked. "I have enough food to share." The man and woman looked at each other. The woman nodded hungrily. "Yes, please," he said. He saw the dagger that was close to her person. He smiled. Caprice went ahead and pulled out some bread and 2 apples. "Here you go," she said as she gave them the food. They sat down on the hard ground and ate the bread and apples. Then she realized they would be thirsty, even after eating the apples. She worried about that as she eyed her canteen of water. If she let them drink, she wouldn't have enough water for the rest of the day. Fortunately, the man saw what she was looking at and was close to reading her mind. "Ma'am," he whispered. She looked at him with a startled look. "May we have some water?" He spoke in French. She nodded and brought him the canteen. He took 1 gulp of the water, making sure it wasn't too much or too little. He whispered to the woman he was with in her ear, "Don't drink too much. We don't know how far she's going." She nodded and took 2 little gulps. The man couldn't help but admire Caprice helped them, even though she could have used her dagger. He watched her carefully. She still gripped the dagger, but not as tightly when she first saw them. That was when he figured out she must be new at possessing a dagger. He spoke up. "Miss, I can't help noticing that you're holding a dagger." "Holding a dagger," he said to her in French. She gasped and pointed the rondel dagger at him nervously. "Oh no, please don't. I just wanted to know what you would have done if we were dangerous or going to hurt you." She bit her lower lip. "I don't know," she replied in his native language. I probably would have, pushed the dagger into you." He chuckled and shook his head. "There are ways to avoid doing that. Would you like to learn some techniques to defend yourself?" Her eyes lit up, but she held herself back. "I don't know," she said uncertainly. "I shall not harm you. As a previous instructor taught me, there is never any harm in learning something new." He stood up and held out his hand. She sighed. "All right then, teach me." She went through her shopping bag and pulled out her hunting dagger. Then she handed him the rondel dagger. When he looked at the dagger closely, he realized what he was holding. "I could run off and sell this for some decent coins," he thought to himself. He sighed. But I shall not do that. It wouldn't be fair. He shook his head and looked at Caprice. He realized she held another dagger. How could you afford this and a hunting dagger? She blushed. The town I lived in, we have a market that is open daily. Someone had a table of daggers and swords. The man was nice enough to hand me these for a cheap price. She smiled faintly. He let me watch a duel he arranged. I guess I shall say he gave them to me as an offering for watching as well. She was quiet. After discovering my burdens, he wouldn't let me pay what I assumed they cost. She was about to say more, but she stopped herself. It was quiet for some time. Dear brother, I think she had the same fate we did. The woman spoke up. She too spoke in French. He looked at his sister and then looked at Caprice. Your parents died? In the fight? Caprice was quiet. My mother died, trying to save the woman's reputation. The sister shivered. Her brother became grim. Her last words were to travel somewhere and find someone who could help me. He suddenly gripped the rondel dagger and assumed in position. Are you ready for your lessons? I love that part. Passionate. Supportive. Magnifique. It was the next day, and she had traveled farther than ever. She had traveled more miles than the previous day. She had taken less breaks, but enough to water the horse. Caprice learned well from her lessons. She was happy she helped the brother and sister. Otherwise, she would not know what to do should she come across trouble. The man didn't think hunting lessons were needed. He figured her trip wouldn't be too long. She was happy to have learned what to do. The monsieur who gave her the daggers was right. Someone along her travels would help her learn to defend. She smiled, remembering the man. It was getting dark. The sun had left the skies, and the moon had not risen yet. Soon, she couldn't see very far. Wait, what? Oh, okay, I see what I did there. Caprice stopped. She couldn't see very far. Soon, she started making a fire. It didn't take long for the fire to burn well. She's becoming a pro at making fire pits. Suddenly, she heard footsteps. She pulled out her rondel dagger and stood up. It was quiet. She waited a few more minutes. No one was there. When the fire was hot enough, she made a small, late supper. After that, she tended to make a bed. There was little for her to make one on the first night. She ended up using her stitching materials and her fabric and making a blanket big enough for her to cover up her traveling items. She used her bed blanket to sleep in. She had changed into her pajama outfit and was going to bed when she heard a crunching sound. She looked toward the sound. She listened carefully. She could hear someone stealthily heading away from her. Caprice was able to get several hours of sleep when all of a sudden her horse started whinnying and neighing softly. She groaned and opened her eyes. In her grogginess, she could hear something ruffling. It sounded like soft fabric rubbing against each other. The horse nickered. Her ears were disturbed by the nickers from her horse. She looked at her chase. Someone was hunched over it. Looking through her shopping bag and travel bag, she widened her eyes. The brother's words echoed in her mind. If someone ever tries to sneak through without your knowledge, it's best to stay silent. Stealth is key, as well as listening. With her new skills, she slipped out of her blanket with no sound at all. She pulled out her rondel dagger quickly and quietly. She tiptoed to the stranger. Then she put the tip of the dagger into its back. The stranger gasped. Is there any reason why you're going through my belongings? She whispered. The person mumbled something in French. She became serious. Put back whatever you took and get away from here, she hissed in French. Caprice twisted the dagger and pushed the tip harder. The stranger cried. He ran off without a word the next second. She sighed. She started thinking of what could have happened if she didn't remember what to do. The horrors struck her hard. She started getting hot and was breathing heavy. The next second, Caprice fainted. Caprice was wrapped comfortably in the blanket she made for her traveling items. The fire was lit. A kettle was over it and was whistling. Someone took the kettle off carefully and poured a cup. She put some herb in the cup and placed it next to her spot. Caprice stirred. Her body shivered. She slowly sighed. Her eyes fluttered open. Well, it looks like somebody decided to wake up, the person said in French. Caprice looked around and sighed. Which way is east? She whispered. The person didn't respond. She looked at them. It was apparent the woman didn't know any English. De quelle manière est Orient? French translation, in which way is east? Or in what way is east? She pointed the opposite direction. She pointed the opposite direction Caprice's chase was facing. She rolled her eyes, realizing she asked a silly question. She looked towards the sun. It was rising and high up in the sky. She gasped and quickly rushed out of her traveling blanket and changed into day clothes. Miss, before you go? The person said in French. Oui, mademoiselle. French translation, yes, miss. Drink this, she told her. She pointed at a cup by her side. It shall clear your mind. Caprice picked up the teacup and took a few sips. She sighed in satisfaction. Elle ne. French translation, it does. She drank the rest of the tea and gave the teacup back. Merci, mademoiselle. The woman nodded. And obviously, merci means thank you. May I ask what happened? She asked. The woman watched her eat something and feed the horse. After an intruder ran off, I fainted, Caprice responded in French, in between bites. The woman widened her eyes. No need to be concerned. She gathered her things into the shopping bag and then covered it with the blanket she made. She put the rondel dagger back in its sheath and placed the sheath back in her boot. Au revoir, she said as she slapped the reins lightly. French translation, goodbye. She had traveled far from Meltrova to reach Menavia. She was on her sixth day of traveling. She had plenty of food left, and she still had her daggers. As she stopped her ride to stretch her legs, she decided to take a short walk. Caprice walked to the horse and pet him softly. "J'aimerais que tu restes," she whispered. French translation, "I'd like you to stay." He neighed softly. Now, 5 minutes after she had left, someone was walking past her chaise and horse. I was very interested in what she found and what to find. And that is it. Hello, everyone. Welcome, Allison D'Agostino.
Is it on?
Yeah, it's on.
Oh.
Alright, everyone. I'm going to stop here so Anna can talk to me. See you guys later. This is the Esperanto 243, signing off.